Well, hello and welcome back. A massive thank you for coming back. Where am I? Sitting in one of my favourite places on a hillside in Tala. And it's a little bit dull today. Do you want to see the view? It's not a bad view, by the way. Here we are, sitting up in the amphitheatre country park. That's the view over the rooftops and, of course, through those treetops down to the blue Mediterranean Sea. And we've entered the golden period, as we say. Middle of September, rapidly approaching us. Temperature down a little bit, but more importantly, it's the humidity that falls away, which makes living in Cyprus, in Paphos in particular, absolutely fantastic. So, today's topic, moving to Cyprus and living in perhaps an apartment, townhouse or a villa of your choice, because this is one of the things you've got to do if you are going to relocate to Cyprus. Either buy a property and have a sales contract in your name, or rent a property on a long-term basis, in other words 12 months, and have your name on that rental contract, and of course then you can start on the immigration process. But renting that property is not as simple as you may think that it is. Now this applies to most countries, doesn't it? We often think that you just walk into an agent and off you go and you find that perfect property. Now sometimes people do, don't get me wrong, but currently we have a couple of clients in Cyprus that we've helped to relocate to live in Paphos. One of those clients has had a super smooth journey, and the other client has had, shall we say, not quite so smooth a journey. Why has that journey not been quite so smooth? Well, unfortunately, it's to do with neighbours. And wherever we are in the world, unfortunately, we cannot choose our neighbours. And some of our neighbours can be a little bit more troublesome than other neighbours. So, like I say, one of the customers that has relocated to Cyprus lives in a villa with literally no neighbours. So neighbours are not a problem. Whereas the other client chose to live in an apartment complex, and unfortunately, some of those neighbours are a little bit troublesome, a little bit noisy, shall we say. But luckily, now that client has found a more suitable part of accommodation. But the subject of the video that I want to talk about is the difficulty that we often find when we want to find somewhere to live. Whether we're buying it or whether we're renting it doesn't make that much difference, although it does, because if of course you're renting it and you then find out that perhaps it's not all that you expected it to be, it's much easier to move. So this is why, to be honest, I advise most people thinking about relocating to any country in the world, not just Cyprus, perhaps you should consider to rent first, with the view to perhaps buying in that complex, in that area in the future. At least then you get to learn the vibes and what's going on in and around that environment, and perhaps it could be the perfect place for you, or perhaps it could be that nightmare that's waiting for you. And this applies to any country, even in your home country. And like I say, people relocate from places like Stockport in Manchester down to Hove along the south coast, and they often find that perhaps things didn't go as they planned. There's a little joke for you there. Drop in the comments if you picked up on it. Hopefully you did anyway. But for that individual, obviously things have not gone quite the way that they planned it. And this happens anywhere in the world. So you are looking for that perfect rental property, and you're on the internet looking at these properties thinking, well, that's perfect, and they're showing you internal pictures and perhaps the odd shot from the outside, but they're not showing you the whole picture. One of the services that we offer is to help you find that perfect relocation property, in other words, that rental property. How does it work? Well, a lot of people have got a budget, so they decide what kind of budget they're thinking of spending on a monthly basis. So let's say that budget is €1,500, so around about £1,200 a month. What should you expect to get for that figure? €1,500 in Paphos, depending on the area that you live in, can deliver a very acceptable property. If you were choosing a property in Paya, a property in Tala, a property in Mandrea, those kind of areas, €1,500 will get you a rather nice 3-bedroom property with a swimming pool, ensuite bathrooms, and hopefully enough privacy for most people. But finding that property often is not as easy as it appears. Like I say, the agents tend to show you the internals to seduce you with the ensuite bathrooms, but they don't tend to show you the surroundings, and those are the bits that normally are going to bother you. You know, the parking, how close the neighbours are when you're going into your pool, are they overlooking you, and these kind of things. So like I say, these are some of the services that myself and Marika offer. M&M Relocation Services. You can look us up on the Marika and Me website. You can make contact with us, of course, via email, relocatetopaphos@gmail.com, and of course you can contact us on our contact numbers, which are in the description on this little video. Let me have a little slurp of one of my favourite coffees. Very nice, and the sun, by the way, is starting to break through the clouds. This is the beautiful time of the year, as I say, and this is why a lot of people are starting to look and plan their relocation to Cyprus, and the majority of those people start that adventure in September, October, November, December, January and February and March. The summer period is more a holiday time, isn't it? And of course it's very hot to be running around and getting frustrated, because like I say, you are going to get frustrated. You know, we paint Cyprus as the perfect place for you to relocate to, whether you're going to work remotely, work offshore or retire. And it is the perfect place. But as I've said, it doesn't matter where you are in the world and where you are relocating to, even if it's just down the road, you're going to get very frustrated because things don't always go the way they are planned. And the search to find that perfect location, in our case we're talking about a rental property, is not as easy as you think that it is, and you don't have all the time in the world that perhaps that you think that you do, because every month that you're paying a rent somewhere is a month that's keeping you further away from your final destination, because a lot of people obviously will relocate to Cyprus and rent just something to suit their needs, like for example a 1-bedroom apartment if there's a couple of you, while you go through the immigration process. Once you've gone through that process, which is going to take somewhere between 3 to 6 months by the way, then you can get on with your life and perhaps move to a much bigger property, or perhaps even a smaller property. Who knows what your final choice will be, but you're going to get frustrated along the way. In this series of videos over the next few weeks, I'm going to talk about how you change your electricity into your name. It's simple, but not as simple as you think. How you change your water into your name, how you change your council bill into your name, how you change your car, all of these little things that often many relocation people forget about. Most relocation services are more concerned with moving you on a grand scale from the UK, from Germany, from France, from Italy. In other words, packing up all your belongings and shipping them to your new property. They are assuming that all of the groundwork has been done by you. And of course, some of them now are starting to offer the services that I am talking about, but they don't go into the detail that we're talking about. They don't go and help you to change your electricity bill, your water bill, your council tax bill. When you're looking for a rental property, basically they will say, well, there's a rental agent over there, they'll sort you out. That's not what we do. We can hold your hand right from the moment when you touch down at either Paphos Airport or Larnaca Airport, because of course some people are coming from some countries that cannot physically land in Paphos, but Paphos is where they're choosing to live, so they fly into Larnaca. We can offer a meet and greet at Larnaca and whisk you to some suitable accommodation in Paphos, accommodation that perhaps you've chosen, or accommodation that you've told us the description of what you want. Our job is to make your relocation to Cyprus as smooth and as simple as possible. Now, obviously it's going to cost you money, but it's always going to cost you money. And like I say, I consider one of our customers that is physically in the process of relocating to Cyprus, in other words, he's going through immigration as we speak, to be a friend of mine. And I've had some fascinating conversations with him. He's loving his new life, but at the same time, he's feeling very frustrated by some of the processes, because it's not the same as it is back in the UK or in France, in Germany, in Iceland. The processes have, should we say, the Cypriot way of doing things. So, if you are moving to Cyprus, and if you do need someone to help you and to show you how to do things, why not engage the services of myself and of course Marika. Marika is a fluent Greek speaker, so when you go into the water board, into the electricity authority, she will be holding your hand and of course speaking in the mother tongue of the people behind the counter. All you will be required to do is produce the relevant documentation and paperwork, which you'll have already been told about. So it'll be a quick in and out, off to the coffee shop and say, oh my goodness, that was very, very easy indeed to switch that electricity bill into my name. It was very, very easy indeed, because things are not as simple as perhaps people tell you they are on the internet and on, of course, the magic book called the Book of the Face. For example, going to the road transport office. That sounds very, very simple, and it is. But the problem is that when you get there, you're going to find out that you have to book an appointment. So, let's say you want your driving licence changed to a Cypriot driving licence. That's where you would go. But you need an appointment, and currently it's running at about 6 to 8 weeks, so that's a little bit frustrating. But of course, if you employ the services of a fixer, that fixer is able to, shall we say, jump the queue and walk into that back office, and a stamp here and a stamp there and a quick picture, and you've got that new Cypriot driving licence waiting especially for you. So these are some of the services that, of course, Marika and Me, M&M Relocation Services offer. Do your homework, do your groundwork, and remember, again, in the words of my friend, he found out that the services being offered by the rental agency were only from 8:30 in the morning until 12:30, in other words, just before lunch. After that, no communication. So if something goes wrong, who do you phone? Well, in our case, our phones are on 24 hours a day. So if something drastic goes wrong, you can always call us, and we'll do our very, very best to make sure that that little problem goes away. So I'm going to say a massive, massive thank you for watching. Hopefully you're going to enjoy this new series of videos, and hopefully you're going to drop into the comments some of the subjects that you'd like me to talk about, because there's a lot. Like I say, changing those bills into your name. Some of the bills you don't need to change in your name, but you will certainly need to change the electricity bill into your name, because that is one of the proofs that you will be required to show as your process as you go down the immigration move. The rental contract will have to be for 12 months, and that rental contract also will have to be authenticated. In other words, it has to have various stamps on it, so there is a charge for that as well. Obviously, you can do it yourself. You can go and find the local mukhtar and do all the paperwork yourself, but again, you're going to be not talking in your mother tongue, so perhaps, certainly the first time, it would be wise to engage the services of a fixer and get it done for you while you sit and slurp on a nice hot latte in a coffee shop. It's as simple as that. So the immigration part of moving to Cyprus is straightforward, but it is fraught with people going to wrong places, people going to wrong queues, and the reason for that is, of course, lost in the communication. So you truly need to engage the services of someone who is a fluent Greek speaker and, of course, a fluent English speaker. And you also, in my opinion, need someone with a great knowledge of the area. Now, this is going to sound like a boast, but I know Paphos better than anybody. Most people can get lost, should we say. They can phone me up and give me some vague directions, and I'm going to find you. And that is very, very useful if, for example, you break down in a hire car, or you break down in your own car or someone else's car. That is very useful if perhaps you get a little bit too adventurous and you end up somewhere out in the Camas or somewhere out on the polished road. It can happen to anybody. The light can rapidly vanish and you can get disorientated. So if you engage our services, you will always have our telephone numbers, and if you find yourself in trouble, give us a call and we'll do our very, very best to either talk you through it or come and physically find you and hold your hand and make sure that quickly, and you will very, very quickly, learn the area and learn what you have to do when you live in Cyprus. And this applies to any country. So please think about it very carefully, what I'm talking about. A lot of people think that they can run before they can walk. You are relocating to a new country and about to start a new life. And your new life is going to be absolutely amazing. But the first couple of months are when you're going to get frustrated. And this is when you need the help of many, many people. Hopefully where you reside, you will quickly make friends around you, people who've been here for a year, 2 years, 5 years, perhaps all of their lives. And these people, again, will help you and guide you and point you in the right direction. You know, you say, I need to buy a new fridge freezer, but I don't want the most expensive one in the world. That neighbour might say to you, you know what, you go down that way and up that way and off that way, take a right, take a left, and there's an electrical shop there and they'll sell you that cheap freezer or perhaps a second-hand one or whatever. So think about it, make your decision, and then plan that decision and come and see us in Cyprus. If you need help and advice, as I've said, marikaandme.com, email relocatetopaphos@gmail.com, and of course our contact details, telephone and WhatsApp, are in the description on this little video. Like I've said before, if there's something you want me to talk about it, please drop it in the comments. You never know, that little video may be coming very, very soon indeed, especially for you. Huge thank you for watching. I've truly enjoyed your company. Hopefully you have enjoyed my company, and hopefully you'll come and join me again very, very soon indeed. I'm going to leave you with the view all the way down to the blue Mediterranean Sea. We're in Tala. This is the amphitheatre little park. There is a little kiddies area where you can go on some swings and some slides. There's some benches, pleasant little walk, and a little cafeteria as well. And on some evenings through the summer, they even have live entertainment. And rumour has it that Duran Duran, that band from the 80s, are coming here this weekend. Not the real Duranis, but you never know. There might be a Duraniette or two in the crowd. Massive thank you for watching. I'll see you again very, very soon indeed.